She's completely unexplainable. You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you never know what she'll do next.
Yay! We're back! We are back. It is so exciting, and you're not going to believe who I have with me. This is a doctor that I didn't even know about before about a month ago, right? Dr. Bankole Johnson here is an esteemed, amazing, genius brain doctor. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for having me on your show. This is wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm so excited, too. We already had so much banter already going on that you guys were missing. I was like, Ben, we got to get the camera on. We're losing this stuff. We're losing it. But anyway, so how did we meet, Dr. Johnson? What should I call you, Dr. Johnson? I saw an interview where the interviewer kept calling you Bankole, and I thought that was a little bit presumptuous.
Oh, you can call me Professor Johnson. You can call me Bankole A Johnson. You can call me Dr. Bankole. You can even call me K if you like.
I was just, and it looked like from what I read in your book this morning that your nickname is like Coley. Is it Coley?
Coley is my shortened name, yes.
Okay. All right. Just so I know how to refer to you. I would choose to go with Dr. Johnson because I'm sure I'm not going to mispronounce that, but Bankole, as we get going here, I might mess that up. I'm not sure.
That's great.
But anyway, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did we meet? First of all, do you remember?
I sort of remember we were introduced, and in fact, there was a gentleman at the American Society of Stem Cell Physicians who said he knew about you and that you would like some help at our clinic, and you had been disappointed by seeing other doctors, and I said, well, have her give me a call. And I'm like the doctor of last resort, and people call me when everybody else has failed. And that's how we met.
Wow. And I have been just blessed by the treatment at Casa Privee, which is their first center, right, Dr. Johnson?
Yes,
your first
this is
center?
our first center.
And it's just an amazing clinic. Do you want to kind of describe a little bit about what it is? I've been showing, since you're sponsoring this episode, and you've been sponsoring a couple of the episodes before this. So I've been showing your commercials and getting my viewers kind of knowledgeable about what you offer. But maybe you can give us a little bit of a rundown.
Well, Casa Privee is a very interesting concept because the real brand of Casa Privee is to try and bring luxury into medicine. And luxury into medicine is very hard to articulate for most people because when they go to see their doctor, they expect to be sick, to be in pain. But the idea of developing yourself such that you have optimum health and you also have the very best of wellness is a unique concept in America. And so Casa Privee is based upon this. And this was something that I developed, and my wife, Carolina Johnson, and I talked about it for a long time. And so now we have Casa Privee in Brickell. Now, Carolina has always stressed that what we need to do with Casa Privee is to try and make it a place which is warm, where individuals and people who come in feel that they're embraced. And that's actually where the term casa comes from, which is Latin. We also wanted to have a place which was based upon accentuating the natural elements of the world, rather than just trying to give people pills, etc., that we would actually try and reinforce, because nature is the biggest healer, and your body is actually the biggest healer of yourself, rather than drugs or medicine. There is no drug that is more powerful than yourself for healing. So if you can accentuate the body to doing that, you can easily overcome many disorders. And our real byword, if you like a byword, is brain, beauty, and behavior. We combine 6 of the important elements of nature, which include things like air, vibration, water, electromagnetism, energy, to be able to synchronize that into some of the most amazing machines we have at Casa Privee. And on top of that, there needs to be doctor skills as well to know when to use them and how to develop those protocols. We have over 1 million different protocols for individuals, and out of those 1 million different protocols, most people only use about 30 or 40. So the differentiation is very important, and knowing exactly what to do for each specific person who is an individual in Casa Privee.
Now, is there a specialty that do you have a specialty? Is it the brain? Is that what your specialty is?
I have several specialties. So when I was at the University of Maryland, which was my posting before I came here and started off Casa Privee, I was a professor of pharmacology. I was a professor of psychiatry. I was a professor of neurology, professor of internal medicine, professor of neuroscience, professor of really quite a lot of things, anatomy and neurobiology. So really, I've been a professor for a lot of things. I have a medical degree, but I also have 2 doctoral degrees, one of which I worked at Oxford, which was on pure brain sciences. And the next one was another doctorate degree, which was based upon assembling and synchronizing a lot of aspects of science, including imaging, how the brain works in health and disease. And I didn't get fed up of going to school, so I also did a master's degree at the University of London in computational mathematics.
Oh my goodness.
So I've been able to bring all of this together. I have about 100 global patents to bring all of this together to provide the very best and innovative medicine for anyone. And
now, what kind of patents do you have?
I have most of my patents are in molecular genetics. And basically, that was related to the discovery of finding out how specific parts of the brain communicate with other parts of the brain, both in health and disease. And that's why Casa Privee has also a tagline, which is time travel in medicine. We're trying to provide the medicine that you will find.
As seen in the book here that Dr. Bankole Johnson wrote. And I've been reading it, as you see my notes around the book here.
So it's time travel in medicine. So it's the medicine you'll have in about a decade. So you can have it now at Casa Privee.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Now tell me, so you tell me how you started out. You started out in school with all these degrees. Now, what did you think you were going to do? Did you do what you thought you were going to do?
No, I didn't actually. I thought I was going to be a lawyer until my father decided that was not a good idea for me. And so I'd done a lot of art studies in school, and eventually they didn't serve me well to do medicine. I went to medical school when I was 16. I didn't really finish high school, which was really strange.
Oh my goodness,
So
that is amazing.
I went to middle school, and I have a son now in middle school. I told him I went from, the end of middle school. I did about 2 years studying on my own, and then I went to university. So I didn't really end up in high school. And so that was a very interesting journey as well. But I wouldn't recommend anyone to send their child to university at 16 because guess what? You can't drink. You can't go to parties. You can't date anyone. So you're just like a little kid and everybody treats you like some kind of a Doogie Howser, and it's a problem for you. So don't do that.
That's amazing. So now I was also wondering, so you've got the doctor title, the professor title. What are you more proud of?
I like to think of myself as a professor because really that is a teaching skill. And I think a lot of what Casa Privee and myself try to do is to teach a type of medicine that will help tens of thousands or millions of people. And a doctor to me is a more individual patient to doctor or patient to client relationship. So I combine both, but I like to think that I am practicing on both ends. One is on the field of discovery and science, and the other is trying to develop and provide those treatment to an individual person.
Now, Dr. Johnson, I was watching all of your videos. I started watching them when I was in the HBOT.
Yes.
And do you want to explain what that is?
HBOT is hyperbaric oxygen. It was initially developed as a way of helping divers to decompress safely. And it's high pressure oxygen at usually about 2.5, 3 atmospheres. I know some people try and give hyperbaric oxygen at lower atmospheres, but it doesn't really work well. So what it does, and when I was in medical school, what most people taught us was that, hyperbaric oxygen would just give you 100% oxygen and not much happened. But now we know that it changes your genetics, it changes your immune system, it changes a lot of bodily functions. And I think it's one of the most powerful anti-aging tools currently invented. It helps neurological diseases, it helps psychiatric conditions, it helps metabolic conditions, diabetes, It helps individuals with fibromyalgia. It is almost like a miracle machine.
It is. I would have to agree with that. That's the first time I'd ever experienced anything like this. My brother, Dr. Richard Bush, who's a chiropractor in Indiana, also has one of these. And I've never done it. And he said he just goes and sits in it, for like an hour or two at a time. And so while I was in the HBOT in Casa Privee, I noticed I did it for an hour or an hour and a half each time. And I noticed just the infiltration of oxygen. It's astounding the difference it makes to have that clean oxygen there that you're breathing. I mean, I started feeling like my body was like buzzing, right?
Yes, and it goes into every cell, and every cell is now getting close to 100% oxygen. It is really an incredible device. And I think the other thing to say about hyperbaric oxygen is, the way we do it is extremely safe, and also, if you have done about 60 hours in the hyperbaric machine, that sounds like a lot. But if you're coming 3 or 4 times a week, it's not really a lot. It's really a couple of months or so. You can actually slow down your aging by up to 5 years. Guess what? Who doesn't want to live 5 years more?
Right.
In great health.
Now, how often do you do it? That's whenever you have it, you're always the last one to do it, right?
I wish I had the time to do hyperbaric oxygen every single week or 2 or 3 times a week. That would be phenomenal.
Well, so when I've been going in, I've been doing the HBOT, and then I've been watching. When you go in there, they let you watch TV. So the last couple times I've gone in, I wanted to see Dr. Johnson's videos. I'm like, well, does Dr. Johnson have any videos that I can watch? And I didn't even think to look in this book that he wrote until to this morning. And I was like, this is a bundle full of information right here. I should have not even been watching these videos. But anyway, he does have some great videos that you can see online too. Do you want to say that what your station is called? Is it Time, Travel, and Medicine as well?
Yes, it's called Time, Travel, and Medicine. And it's really an interesting channel because when I started it off, everybody told me it had to be commercial, it had to help bring patients into the clinic, and basically it was too academic. It was 15 minutes long. Who nowadays is going to watch anything that's 15 minutes long? But I've persisted. It's not full of subscribers, but it's full of people who want to be informed and who want to have a great amount of knowledge about what is going on and different aspects of neuroscience. And so it's basically done for me, for my clients, for people who want to be educated, but it's not really done to entice anyone to come to Casa Privee. And so it's not a commercial tool, but it's a very interesting teaching lesson. It goes back into the history of medicine, explains some very important concepts in medicine, including things like, why we like music so much, why our voices are very important, how we should interact with our teenage children, all sorts of things like that. So a range of things.
Well, all right. Now, what I loved about the videos that you made are that they're also hopeful, and you always start with positivity, and they seem to be based around happiness as well. Am I correct?
They're based on happiness. Well, my wife, Carolina Johnson, is a happiness science advisor, and so she is always trying to get all of us to feel a little bit happier.
That's amazing. I should have her on here, too.
You should have her next. She's great. And so because of that, we try to put into practice a very positive type of way of looking at things and try to lighten things up a little bit, try to get people to focus on what's working well for them and try to accentuate that.
Now tell me, so I noticed that you have a lot of awards. What is your favorite, most meaningful award that you have?
Oh my goodness, not sure. They all mean different things. It's like asking a sportsman which award is best for you. They'll tell you, I suppose. It depends on when they got it, and they mean different things. But I think that the award that sticks out the most, because it's 2 awards stick out the most. One was the one I got by the National Institutes of Health, which really has a really nice tagline to it as a person who's really used science to transform the lives of millions of people. And the other was a presidential award by the Addiction Society. We do treat individuals with addiction because it's a brain disorder, which basically is given almost like the most important honor for an individual who's transformed and changed the science of understanding addiction.
Wow.
You see, when I was a younger man, addiction was thought of as a personal flaw, some kind of major psychological problem and or upbringing problem or just bad behavior. And the idea was, why can't these people pull their socks up and basically just do the right thing and not take drugs or alcohol?
Right.
And a lot of my research has shown that it's actually mostly a biological disease. It's a disease of the brain, just like you would have other diseases of the brain, like epilepsy, for example, or other chronic diseases in the body, like diabetes. And it's also governed very powerfully by genetics and how the genes make the nerve cells communicate with each other either in a good way or in an aberrant way. And so some of the inventions we've come out are of drugs or neurochemicals that have been able to alter those brain firing pathways. And so it's laid out a path for even future generations for gene therapy for addictions and even possibly at a certain point vaccinations against addictions, which is what the patents are based on.
Right, right. I saw a few of your things that you did during COVID too. Really good stuff. Anyway, so can I even ask where you stood on the vaccination?
The vaccination is a very interesting thing for me because some of the technology used to create the vaccine was some of the technologies that have actually come out of our lab. So I had a good idea where the vaccine was, and we call it a vaccine, but it's not really a great vaccine, but it's a vaccine that sort of works. It's a vaccine that has basically risks and opportunities. So on a population level, it did reduce the risk of individuals catching COVID. On a personal level, though, some people did get some pretty horrible side effects. And that's because any vaccine that's developed at that speed is going to have some flaws. And some people who have blood disorders or clotting disorders have really had a significant amount of problems with the vaccine. So my final answer on that, if there's a final answer, is for a general population, it's important to have a vaccine and for people to take a vaccine. But the vaccine may not be for everyone. For example, there is no point in vaccinating, in my view, children for COVID.
Right, I agree.
Because children have significant amount of immune response. And if you look at the morbidity of children who catch COVID, it is extremely low. So vaccinating children for COVID, to me, doesn't really make much sense. You know, vaccinating people who are very vulnerable and who are elderly makes a lot of sense. And people who are sort of in the middle of that need to make a decision. And I'm talking about somebody who lost 13 relatives during COVID. So I saw both the pros and the cons.
You lost 13 relatives?
I lost 13 relatives and
Wow.
acquaintances during COVID. So I have truly lived the COVID nightmare. And when we set up Casa Privee was meant to be the world's first anti-COVID clinic. You know, the walls were meant to have sensors on it, so if anybody touched the walls illuminated. We had all sorts of procedures. We even had a very sophisticated electronic system to develop to look at microbes. We had a way of sanitizing, and in fact, it was actually listed as one of the first anti-COVID clinics, and it was actually in the press. So
Wow,
because
that's
of
great.
my personal experience, I decided to do a lot to help you with COVID. And at the moment, we have tremendous treatments for long COVID and people who are still suffering the symptoms of COVID at Casa Privee. And so that is because at that point in time, it's become a neurological disease, and most people have depression, they have difficulty thinking, they have brain fog, and those are all things we can really help with.
Now tell me, where do you stand on the mask then?
The what?
The people that wear the mask? I mean, I
Well,
still see people wearing the mask.
You're asking me some tough questions here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think that it's all a matter of exposure. So, you know, I've talked a little bit about my home and my background. We wore masks, but we didn't wear them often. But, you know, my wife was very careful in keeping everybody safe from COVID. You know, we had sprays. She made sure no one came in without being sprayed. We reduced our contact with other people. We took very sensible precautions. And of course, we live in the Sunshine State, and we live in the great state of Florida. So there was no need to be in close contact like you would be if you were living in New England or other parts that people were huddled together. And we were COVID-free, and my children were COVID-free. So to my mind, it's a matter of making the right decisions and understanding exposure.
Right, I agree. Well, to me, when the whole COVID thing was happening, and I will share this, I was thinking, this is God's planet. I don't believe God is going to have something out there in the air that I have to cover my mouth from. That's just my personal opinion, but I'll leave it there. But that's where I come from on that. But anyway, so then I also noticed Casa Privee has a butler service. Like, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of anything like that before. Can you explain that?
A butler, yes, not just a concierge. So some of our clients are very well-to-do. They come to us from all parts of the world, and there is a need to coordinate very complex travel. Either they're coming on their private jets or coming by commercial airline, they're coming by sea, they want accommodation, they want to do specific things in Miami, they want to be picked up by a certain type of car.
I know people like that. I know people like that. I've lived in Miami a while, and in Boca.
Which is well beyond what a typical concierge can do because they don't have access to all of these resources. So we have a butler and the butler service. It's butler at Casa Privee will arrange all of these things for you. And so it's a very high-end center. You can choose a variety of cars. The Bentley is the most popular at the moment, but you can also travel to us in a Rolls Royce. And so there are various cars,
Well, that's nice to know. I got to pull that Rolls Royce out now.
You can, and all you have to do is to call the butler.
I didn't know Bentley's the best car now. I didn't know that. Now that I'm car shopping, I'll have to check that out. But anyway, okay, so now what I'm most interested in, and maybe the women in my era are interested in, is anti-aging. And I know you have a lot of great things there, especially like you just touched on the HBOT being great for anti-aging as well. I've done the red light bed that you have there. I love that. And they say to me, oh, do you want to wear these goggles? And I'm like, no, I'm going to stare right at the red lights. What do you think of that?
I think anti-aging is very important for everyone. And I know that certainly in Miami, women like to be younger, men too, but a lot of women do. The hyperbaric oxygen is tremendous. If you want your skin to look its best, you need to do hyperbaric oxygen. There's just no way about it. Now, you could do microneedling, you could do vampire facials, but without hyperbaric oxygen, it's close to a waste of time, to be honest. And we would combine some of those technologies, and we would add regenerative medicine products that actually help, or smart products that actually help the cells to grow back. But when you combine it with hyperbaric oxygen, it's absolutely gangbusters. We have a whole group of surgeons, particularly plastic surgeons, who send their clients to us after they've had the plastic surgery. And also at Casa Privee, we have ways of stimulating the facial muscles such that we can actually show you what a facelift will actually look like before you decide to go and have a facelift. Oh, wow, I need to check that out. And then you can decide whether it makes sense for you to have it. We also have a lot of products that you can use, whether they be skin products, etc. But most people like to engage at a deeper level when they come to Casa Privee to look younger. And our promise is that you will look younger if you come to Casa Privee.
Now, I noticed when I came in to talk to you, and you were like, what do you want to have done? And I said, well, I don't know what to do, but I was telling my friend, I think I need to get some Botox. And he said, no, I needed to come in and talk to you first. So you said, no, you don't need Botox. We're gonna heal you naturally. We're gonna make you young naturally, right?
Well, the problem with Botox is basically you're paralyzing the facial muscles. And that is because, when you're using Botox, you're stopping people from frowning and being able to exercise those muscles. But, you can end up looking a little bit like a Barbie doll. So what you want to
Barbie doll. No, don't want to look like a Barbie doll.
Well, some people might. but the more important thing is to actually have great skin everywhere, not just in your face,
everywhere,
but your neck.
We're talking
your
everywhere,
body, but everywhere. And so, in order to do that, you do need a full anti-aging protocol, which we do. And so, you basically reduce your aging and you retard your aging from the inside out rather than something that's just superficial. And then you have to keep doing it. You have to keep going back to get Botox every 2 or 3 months. And this just goes on for months or years. And once you start Botox, you truly can't stop because those muscles are not going to be the way they were when before you started using Botox. So you start Botox, you're on Botox for life. I like to think of it like if you want to get younger, it's better to be on an anti-aging program for life, so you actually extend your life rather than just Botox for life.
So then that would include what you've just discussed here today. And also another thing I've done when I've been there has been the theta chamber, which is amazing. Do you want to describe that as well?
The theta chamber is one of these technologies that we basically pinched from the Russian cosmonaut program, and then NASA developed it. But it relies on the idea that the brain actually has waves. You know, we have different waves, the alpha, beta, theta waves, and the theta waves are actually the slowest. And if you apply sound to that is slightly asynchronous, which is slightly different in frequency and timing to both ears, your brain tries to put these things together, and that makes it slow down. When your brain slows down, and through what these call binaural beats, your brain is more accessible to change. I'll give you a very good example. You know, some of you are watching me on the podcast, and I'm talking, and you're also seeing me. You're seeing my lips move. Now, light travels many, many times faster than sound, but you know, if the video is synchronized correctly, it appears as if it's arriving at the same time. And that's because our brain is always performing this trick of trying to bring everything into real time or understood time. And every time you make an effort to concentrate or to look at something or to synchronize your brain waves actually slow down, which is very, very interesting. And that's the most receptive time of the brain. Now, one of the fascinating things is theta waves are very, very common in babies in the womb. Why is that? Because we all have this idea that if you're in the womb is warm and it's nurturing and it's great. But I can tell you, not from experience because I remember it, but I can tell you the womb is a very noisy place. You know, you can hear the heart pumping, you can hear your organs, it's hot, it's not very comfortable, mom's moving all the time, so you're shifting. So it's not comfortable. And if you didn't have theta waves to slow your brain down and to make you relax and less anxious, you're probably wanting to get out of there as quickly as you can. And so this same idea is the same for using theta waves to be able to treat anxiety and to treat depression, because it makes you stay in the moment. It makes you remain in that place and reduces your anxiety.
Yeah, that's what I was told when I did the theta. I did the theta chamber right before I went on this Las Vegas trip with the American Chiropractor magazine recently, and also before I went on this trip, they said you've got to come in right before you go. Then we're going to give you a vitamin drip so that you fight off anything that you come into contact with. And then the day when I got back, they're like, okay, now you got to come back in and get another drip, they've been taking such good care of me. It's been amazing. And another thing they've been juicing me up with, but I want to tell you, the theta chamber went on my trip to Las Vegas, and I sometimes have trouble sleeping through the night. After that one experience of the first half hour I didn't have any trouble sleeping that whole trip. And I want to tell you that was amazing. But another thing they've been sharing with me has been NAD with these drips that I'm getting. Do you want to explain that? I've heard a lot of good things about that lately.
NAD is basically a neurochemical which actually helps something called the mitochondria, which is the energy portion of inside your cell. And all of us, if we expend a lot of energy, we basically become slightly deficient in NAD. And it's really the difference between NAD in terms of NAD and something called NADPH. So by giving you NAD, we actually optimize the mitochondria. And by optimizing the mitochondria, you get this tremendous boost of energy. When you get this tremendous boost of energy, what your cells do is they start to repair. And why is this important? Your body has to go around repairing damaged cells. It has to scavenge away old cells. It has to suppress tumor cells. And so giving something like NAD is basically not only anti-aging, but it actually improves your wellness and reduces your risks of disease, of cancers, etc. Now, one of the other fascinating things I would say about using NAD is it has to be done in a medical facility because NAD itself can give you a little bit of heart flutter, a little bit of palpitations. So it has to be done carefully. And so one of the things that I always tell people about Casa Privee is not a spa; it is a medical center. And if you want aromas or you want just nice juices, then you won't be happy at Casa Privee. It is a full-fledged medical center, which we have practitioners, doctors, nurses, and that's what it is. So you can get your NAD treatment at Casa Privee.
Well, listen, I have so much more to share with you, and I even have a couple of questions that I want to ask him about how does that make you feel. And I've got the Real Estate Minute coming up, but we have to have a word from our sponsor, Casa Privee. So here we go.
Lost 50 pounds, so I don't look like anything on that video anymore. So I decided I've been doing this for so many people, I'm going to do it for myself.
Well, good for you. You got to take advantage of it. Yeah.
So one of the other things, this is the first center. We are planning another center in Palm Beach or West Palm Beach. Then we have the idea of going to New York. And after New York, we go to Texas. And then we have a dilemma of whether to go abroad or basically remain in the United States. So that'll be the fifth center. I think we'll end up somewhere in England or we'll end up somewhere in France or Spain for Casa Privee over there.
Well, I should have probably said this before the commercial. If you all hung on, you could find out that right now they're offering. Do you want to say it? Do you know what it is you're offering?
I don't know. I'm not on the business side.
Okay, well, they are offering a $499 Exosome facial treatment that's normally $1,500. Do you want to explain what that is, Dr. Johnson?
Well, exosomes are the byproducts of regenerative medicine cells, and what that does is it helps to repair the skin. It helps to repair the underlying damage that we accumulate over years. And so these are very expensive products indeed. So I think Casa Privee is running what my managers tell me is a March Madness.
That's what they told me too.
It sounds pretty mad to me.
With stem cell treatment.
I think I'm going to sort of enroll in that myself.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I want to do that too. It sounds amazing. And then you have another special I heard for, I think it was, I thought I had it written down here, $399 for the HBOT treatment. Is that right? Does that sound right?
I think it's part of March Madness.
If you say Being Tracy, you have to say Being Tracy.
You have to say Being Tracy
and March Madness.
And March Madness. I think it's for the month of March. I really don't really get into the business side. I'm totally and completely focused on the care of the clients, and whatever the managers decide, that's what it is. I just greet everybody and make sure everybody's fine and they get the best treatment that we can deliver.
Well, now, so this is a very expensive and exclusive spa. Now, what if some of my viewers want to stay young looking and, treat some of these things in their own homes? What can they do in their homes that
Oh my goodness. I don't know what you could do in your home that is at Casa Privee, but you can prolong the effects of some of the treatments you get at Casa Privee at home. We have some special products and some special creams and some vitamin packages that we can help you to do that with. But there isn't a chance we could roll a hyperbaric machine into somebody's home or a theta chamber.
Even probably sitting outside for a period of time a day, though, wouldn't that be?
Sitting outside is really interesting, So it's funny that even though we're in the Sunshine State, as much as half of us in the Sunshine State are deficient in vitamin D because we don't get any sunlight, because we're trying to
vitamin
avoid
D.
the sunlight.
One more question. Where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from England.
England. Okay, I kept meaning to ask you that, but you were so interesting. I was hanging on every word. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue.
So we're deficient in vitamin D, and so because of that, we actually even have to administer vitamin D to people who are in Miami, South Florida, etc. Now, what the issue about sitting in the sun is that the sun is really not very good for your skin. And there's been a lot of debate about this, whether you should suntan or not suntan, etc. But the bottom line is the sun is not the friend of your skin in general. It will age your skin. Now, you obviously have to expose yourself to some sunlight because you can't go around just wearing a hat and a mask. But minimizing sunshine is actually very good for you, and especially, I'm sorry, minimizing the effects of the sun going into your eyes are very important. And so, for example, wearing dark glasses and shades is very, very important even for your brain health because your eye, most people don't think about it this way, but your eye is actually an external part of your brain. And so what you're doing is you're basically doing a type of photoreception or photobiomodulation that is actually interfering with your brain.
Wow.
And so by calming things down a little bit with the right type of sunglasses, then your brain is good. You know, one of the things that I always say is all of us have some kind of physical activity we do, whether we walk, we go out with a dog, we exercise in a gym. But very few people wake up in the morning and say to themselves, how can I take my brain for a run? How can I optimize my brain? How can I be the best? How can I have the best brain possible? I would say less than 1 to 2% of people on the planet even think about it, let alone do it. And the only time we think of our brain, which is a kind of silent organ, is if it's in trouble. You're getting headaches, you're getting symptoms, you're falling around. And so because of that, we only realize there's a problem with our brain when significant damage has occurred, which is unlike other organs, actually. You know, if your heart starts to skip a beat, you will tend to notice it pretty quickly, you know, over a few minutes, etc. You know your heart is skipping a beat or you have palpitations. Your brain's not like that.
Right.
Your brain gets damaged and it takes time. So by the time somebody comes to see me, they have had significant amount of damage, and it's a matter of rolling back time to be able to improve the health of the brain.
So, Dr. Johnson, I don't know if you know this, but I had a head injury when I was 20.
Oh, no.
I was in a car accident where my car flipped 3 times and threw me back into the road 75 feet. When I woke up from the car accident, I was in a coma. I lost the use of the right side of my body.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but look at me now.
Wonderful.
And I'm telling you what, your treatments are really helping me so much. And I'm just so grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. But anyway, so now the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is sleep. Okay, I was thinking of you last night when I was going to sleep because I was thinking, I was having a little bit of trouble sleeping. I was a little bit restless, and I thought, oh, where's that melatonin that I take? Where's that melatonin, like, I take now like a stick? I always think about the Seinfeld episode, put it right there. I can't even do the lozenge. Like they've got these strips of things now. That's what I put on my tongue before I go to sleep sometimes. And I thought, well, what would you recommend, or do you recommend anything for helping with sleep, or even throughout the day?
Well, sleep is very important, and this is Sleep Awareness Week. And the importance of it
I walked right into that Sleep Awareness Week. Do you see that? Planned this?
You planned it, you got it right. You're right in there. And so with sleep, the most important thing is to get great sleep. And that requires you to have some good sleep habits. One is trying to sleep at the same time every time.
Right.
The other one is to reduce the amount of blue light, either on a TV screen or an iPhone, at least a couple of hours before you sleep. The other thing you need to do is to reduce your caffeine and alcohol intake.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, too. I read this book this morning, and I've got all these highlights here, which I'm not even looking at. But one of the things is women and drinking, and probably men, too. But that was just something that was highlighted here, women and drinking. What do you think about that?
Well, with women and drinking, alcohol has a powerful effect on the hormones in the body, and it has a very important neurohormonal response. So when women drink, it tends to interfere very much with their estrogen and progesterones, their sexual hormones, if you like. It produces bloating, it produces grogginess, it produces weight gain, it produces water retention. So alcohol needs to be drunk at a very low level for most women to feel healthy, safe, and, if you like, well. And so I wouldn't recommend, I suggest, it's very hard for me to tell people not to drink because I suspect people who drink will do so
kind
anyway.
of fun. It's kind of fun.
It's kind of fun, but it's not really good for you. If you think that every glass of wine you take probably kills, about 10,000 brain cells, that's just one glass. You can imagine the effect of drinking many glasses over several days. So if you really want your brain in tip-top condition, you can't really drink very much. And it's just the way. Now, your brain has trillions and trillions of nerve cells, but there's no point going about destroying them unless you really want to have that as a way of living. So,
Well, and I did notice that in my treatment, they're not saying don't go home and have a drink tonight. I don't know if they're forgetting that. Is that something that you recommend with the treatment, or?
Well, Casa Privee is also a lifestyle medical center, and so we are not at the level where we don't recognize that people want to drink or people want to enjoy themselves. So our motto is always moderation. And so when it comes to moderation, it's a matter of judging and gauging what you need to have for that specific individual. Now, certain types of individuals shouldn't drink at all. People with substance abuse problems or with a heavy alcohol addiction shouldn't really be drinking a lot and triggering that. But also people with major mental illness, whether it be depression or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, shouldn't be drinking because all of that triggers brain cells and triggers brain activity in an aberrant way that will actually worsen the underlying mental condition.
Okay. I just lost my train of thought. Okay, so I was going to ask you, I don't know if you've even thought of this, but what is the funniest thing that you can say has happened to you in your whole career having to do with being a professor and being a doctor and treating people in this way? Has there been anything really funny that you'd like to share?
Oh gosh, there have been lots of things. You do want me to confess some of the jokes that are on me or that I've watched other
Whatever
people?
you think, just...
So I remember in medical school, and I hadn't really, if you like, read up on a test, and I was called up with a bunch of kids. I call them kids. They're all older than me anyway in medical school, and to do a certain type of neurological test, which involves me having the patient look at me in the face and me trying to move, if you like, a pen to see what their peripheral vision is. The problem is I hadn't read up on it, so I did it pretty poorly. And what happened was the patient ended up falling out of the bed, and I ended up falling over myself, and everybody started laughing at me. It was the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me, but it was really funny.
How old were you at that time? How long ago was that?
Oh, my goodness. I was probably about 17 and a half. It was really funny. And I remember it
So
to
what?
this
You
day.
were you, is that when you were going to school?
I was in medical school.
Oh, my gosh.
So I found that really funny. And I always remember it today. So from that point in time, I do learn things very well, and I don't make those kinds of mistakes. But it was very funny when it happened, and no one got hurt. So that's quite interesting.
All right. And also, what is the craziest thing that has ever happened?
Crazy is a strange term because it means that I have to define what crazy is. I suppose what you mean by crazy is unusual.
Okay, unusual.
Or somebody did something unusual. So the most unusual...
This is the way a very educated, scholarly man talks, and this is the way I talk. We're balancing. We're communicating.
So the most unusual, if you like, crazy thing that I did was that we had a client who really liked to exaggerate his symptoms a lot. And
oh, that sounds common.
He was lying in bed, and he wouldn't move. And he said all these junior doctors had come to me and said, Professor, he won't move. We need to get him moving. And we've told him all sorts of things and encouraged him, and he won't move. And so, what are you going to do? So I walk up to him and I say, "Arise, sir." And he gets up and he moves. and then one of the students in the back says, "Goodness, only Jesus could have done a thing like that."
My gosh.
I said, no, it wasn't the work of Jesus. It was just the fact that he was a person who was looking for a commanding tone or somebody in some level of authority to ask him to do something and do it politely.
That's hilarious.
And so by respecting him, he responded to me rather than everybody that was just
and didn't even
nudging
think
him
about
and
it.
bothering.
And
I
didn't even think about it. He just did it.
Yes, I just said it, and he decided that, oh, gosh, I suppose I should do this.
That's great. Okay. Well, listen. All right. I've got just a couple more minutes, and I want to ask you a couple of questions about my new section called How Does This Make You Feel? Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
My first question is about a massage that I got recently, and I was
Okay.
in like a lot of stress and pain and stress. And he was massaging my head so hard that it was hurting. And it was hurting, but like good, because I was like, I'm going to feel so good when this is done. Either I'm going to feel good or he's going to damage me. Now, I thought that'd be a good question for me to ask you. Like, can that happen? Can they actually hurt you when they're giving you a massage? Like if you let them massage your head too hard?
Well, usually with a scalp massage, you can't do too much damage, but with a neck massage, you could do tremendous amount of damage because the neck muscles are very sensitive. There are a lot of them, and they're very powerful muscles. And if they're massaged in the wrong way, let's say you go to massage therapy because you have a crooked neck and you want to massage that away, you've got to remember that massage itself produces trauma because it's inputting heat into that muscle and it's actually kneading that muscle. So when you do that, the reason why massage is meant to work is it's meant to release things like oxytocin, opioids, to be able to help the muscle heal. But it can also be at such an exaggerated level that it releases things called chemokines or cytokines. And so when that happens, there's actually more tissue injury and there's greater inflammation. So I certainly don't do neck massages. We have at Casa Privee, we have a facial mask. I don't know whether you ever tried that, but we actually have a red light facial massage mask, which actually calibrates the amount of, if you like, stimulation that is required. And if you needed relaxation, we also have something at Casa Privee called ketamine therapy that is sometimes used for people to reduce their level of anxiety, especially folks who've had post-traumatic stress disorder, who have depression. And so we have other ways of reducing
That's good to know because I've been through that post-traumatic stress disorder, and my viewers know that, and I'm like totally sympathetic to anybody going through that right now. So please reach out to someone who can help you if you're going through that, because it's really tough to get through. Have you ever gone through anything like that?
I've gone through tough times in my life. I went through a very tough time when my parents died. I was only 21. I was just graduating from medical school, and I lost both of my parents 8 weeks apart. So that was very traumatic for me, and I remember it to this day. And it was really a very difficult time. And in my book, 6 Rings, I describe an episode whereby I lost both my parents, and I had a fiance at the time, and I came back from burying my parents, and she had packed her bag saying, she didn't want to hang out with any poor doctors because my parents were wealthy, and she had decided to.
What did they do? Were they doctors too?
Yes, my parents were doctors, but they were well-to-do. They were also landowners, etc., and they were business people.
In London?
They were in Africa, and also, they also had property in London. And so that was very traumatic because I basically lost everything.
Wow.
And I had to build up, and I didn't have much money, and I wasn't used to that point in my life to struggle. But I was able to do that, help my sister get through medical school herself, and build ourselves up. And so it is possible to overcome great difficulty, even great difficulty that happens as a series.
Wow, yeah. Well, I want to ask you one more question, but
Sure.
first I'm going to give the real estate minute. And this is by Keeping Current Matters. The motto for 2024 housing market is seize the opportunity or get left behind. Okay, if you're thinking of buying or selling a house and wondering what the new year holds for the housing market, experts forecast home prices to end this year up 2.8% and to rise another 1.5% in 2024. And climbing prices help make homeownership a good investment. Plus, home sales are projected to increase in 2024. That's good news because it means more experts are forecasting more activity as people continue to move. So if you're planning to buy or sell, it's helpful to know what experts project for the housing market and connect with a local real estate agent to talk about the latest forecasts and craft a plan together. And if you don't have a local real estate agent that you're working with, reach out to me. I'm Tracy Bush Pate. I'm with Keller Williams, and I've got a team of wonderful real estate agents worldwide that can help you. Just send me a message. This is a new phone I have now. I actually have this phone, but I don't walk around with it. So please just send me a message or leave me a message. And I've been one of those people now that has two phones. Do you have two phones?
I have only one.
I'm like one. I joined the two phone club, but I'm above walking around with two phones. I'm not going to say I'm that important yet, but please leave me a message. Let me know how we can help you and what you're looking for, commercial or residential real estate. Now, I think I just have a few more minutes, and I wanted to ask you about this thing that I read about in the book, Alafia. Is that how you pronounce it?
Alafia.
Alafia.
So Alafia is a word that comes from the Yoruba, which is a part of Western Africa. And it's a prevailing culture. And there isn't really, if you like, a Western word for it because it means total wellness. Now, total wellness for us means a combination of things. It means wellness in body. It means wellness in terms of mental function. But, Alafia also means spiritual wellness because we all think of medicine as being a cold art, but at the base of medicine is also the human spirit. And the human spirit has its own energy. And this energy form is very important and particular to all of us. And so if you don't heal the person in terms of their spiritual growth, in terms of their mental and their physical growth, then you're missing out. And most doctors make this mistake. They treat their patients simply as a means to a prescription. Well, you're doing something, but you've gotten a lot of things wrong because you haven't really interacted with the person. And as Maya Angelou will always say, people only remember the way you make them feel. They barely remember what you say.
And that's in his book. I reminded him of that quote this morning when he said something about his jacket makes him feel big, and I said it looks stunning. Please wear the jacket. And he said that, and I reminded him of the Maya Angelou quote.
Thank you. You coaxed me into wearing this.
I was like, please wear the jacket.
And now I'm boiling in the studio because I'm
but you look so good.
Thank you so much. So it's important to have that energy, and I think that's one of the things that we spent a lot of time thinking about at Casa Privee, the kind of colors we use. We use mostly primary colors. There's certain colors we do not use. We don't use red, for example, because red has a very powerful effect on a person's psyche. And so we try and make sure everything matches. We play music at Casa Privee, which is unlike most medical centers, but the music is carefully curated. And that some of the music is the music from a book I wrote called Six Rings. And I worked with a composer to do this. And I have no musical skills, but he had tremendous musical skills. But I had good math skills. So I was able to help decompose and help write the music, which are mathematical pieces of music. And it's very interesting because they sound just like somebody spent their time composing it, and it tends to be very relaxing.
Well, that is amazing. Well, Dr. Johnson, it has been my pleasure to have you here today and to get to know you and your med spa better. And do you want to share anything more with the viewers?
I'll just say it's a med center.
How to get a hold of you? Is that different? It's a med spa, med center?
It's a med center. And you can get a hold of us by basically calling the number 305-434-2647 or going online and looking for Casa Privee, which is CASAPRIVEE. And we look forward to seeing you.
And please reach out to me on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, and all over social media. And let us know what it is here that you need to know that we didn't answer for you, or any questions you have, or any Anything else that you want information on, please just don't forget to like it, subscribe to my channel, and if you message down below, I love it because it really helps me get a little bit closer to YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And then they treat me better and they share my message more, our message
And they
more.
make you feel better too.
And it makes me happy. And it makes me happy, right?
Yes.
Anyway, thank you again. And thank
you.
you guys for tuning in again this week. I love sharing with you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.